There is no better feeling than closing a game out with a win. While it feels great to get top 5, this is where your skill is really tested, up against the best teams in the lobby that have managed to survive this long. What's up guys, it's Valued, and today we're going to take a close look at the late stage of the game and talk about exactly what you need to do to come out ahead more and take home those wins. Without further ado, let's get this going. So, for the sake of this video, we're gonna assume you find yourself in a top 5 scenario and put all of our focus into discussing exactly how you can navigate these situations. But even if you don't make it to top 5 very often, it's important to understand how to go about closing the situations when you do get there. When you're looking to rank up or even just play pubs, this is where the real players show themselves. So, buckle in and let's get to winning more games. Closing out games is all about positioning and decision making, and both of these aspects of your game heavily impact each other. These are two of the major subjects that the best player, Imperial Hal, is going to cover in his boot camp. There's only 5 days left to reserve your spot, so if you've been on the fence, make sure to check it out in the description below. So, as I was saying, your decision making sets you up to have good positioning, and good positioning gives you access to a wider variety of decisions that you can make. This gets really in-depth and honestly requires a lot out of you as a player, because every single situation is going to be different. You might have different weapons or legends that heavily impact how you want to play the game and where you want to position yourself. The ring can close at a wide variety of locations, which means you have different terrains, buildings, and power positions every single time. Not to mention, you're gonna have different enemies in every match, which means different team comps, weapons, and skill of players that you're matched up against. With all these variables, it's important to slow down, analyze every situation, and make calculated decisions to put your squad in a winning position. All too often, I think players just think to themselves, there's only 4 of the squads left, so I just need to kill them and win the game. Right? While taking out these enemy squads will inch you closer to getting in, your fights need to be extremely calculated at this point in the game. Rather than looking to take fights out of aggression, you should be looking to take fights to secure your position and better yourself for the rest of the game. And rather than just looking for fights, you should be prioritizing gaining control of a power position that forces teams to come to you. So now I want to go into this top 5 situation a bit more specifically and break down how you should go about closing a game. As I've talked about, you need to be putting a focus on your ring positioning and locking down solid power positions for your squad. In order to do this effectively, you need to be predicting ring movement, or better yet, using a survey beacon to guarantee your knowledge going into the final couple of rings. On top of gathering knowledge of the ring, you also need to be using every single audio and visual cue that you can use to map out the locations of the other squads. Information is the most valuable commodity at this point in the game, so make sure to use it. You're already well looted, so transition that scavenging mindset towards scavenging for info. As you gather info on squads fighting, using abilities, or just showing up in your line of sight, add that to your knowledge of the game and use it to better position your team. The goal here is to get your squad into a safe position, but also one that is easily defensible. What you're looking for is a good power position that's within the ring without being too far in the ring. A good power position consists of high ground, good lines of sight, and preferably some buildings or obstacles that you can use to play around if you get pushed. If you have defensive legends that are looking to lay traps, having some enclosed space that your squad can retreat to when repelling enemies is really strong. The more info you gather, the easier it will be to choose this position and have confidence in it. But one thing I can tell you for sure is that hopping into the center of the ring is not the move. Even if you don't know exactly where the enemies are, you can assume they'll be rotating inwards, and being center circle puts you in a very dangerous position. You're looking to avoid fights at this stage in the game unless you have to take one. So rather than just finding a power position in the middle where you can be pushed from all sides and easily get third-partied, look for that dead side of ring location that lets you cover your back with the zone. By keeping the zone at your back, you remove a massive chunk of real estate that enemies can use to push you. This gives you more confidence knowing that you don't have to worry about at least one direction, and it keeps you out of the sights of a lot of teams as they make their way into the ring. You should not look to fight a squad at this point in the game. This is where you're looking to let them kill each other off if possible. Oftentimes, the ring is small enough at this stage of the game that any fight is gonna get third party, and you don't want to be on the receiving end of this. The only time you should be looking to take a fight is if you have the opportunity to third party, and you're entirely confident that there isn't another squad nearby that isn't thinking the same thing. It really is in your best interest to let them fight it out and be patient until there's only about 3 squads left. Once you manage to get down to 3 squads remaining, this is where you need to be ready to get aggressive. If you know there's only 2 other squads and you hear any fighting, you should be looking to get into a position to clean up the fight. With these being the only 2 remaining squads, if you can get a clean third party on the fight and clean up the team that wins, this is the easiest way to close out a game. Rather than sitting back and letting them finish up, you should be looking to get involved before the squad that wins has a chance to heal up and stabilize. Remember, in these lobbies, these are some of the best teams in the game, and if you can manage to catch them by surprise with a disadvantage, this is literally the easiest way to take them out in the game. But be careful that you don't overcommit too early and find yourself between these 2 teams, but rather hover them, using cues in the kill feed to determine the best time to take a fight. You can monitor how many players are going down, and if you see a ton of enemies going down or hear a squad wipe noise, get in there and clean it up. So let's look at another example. Let's say the final 2 squads duke it out and you aren't in a position to third party. Once you're down to this last squad, if you can't get the advantage through a third party, you need to keep the focus on your positioning. Keeping the better ring position and high ground is key, as you want to be able to limit your movement on the map as much as possible, while having a clear vision of where the other squad is trying to go. Your squad should look to make clear, concise movements, maintain your ring position, and wait for them to make a mistake. The goal here is to either force them to fight you while you're at an advantage, or if they clearly make a misstep, you can take advantage of this and make a play. The only time a play like this should be made are if one of the squad members is separated from their team and you're confident that you can collapse on them for a free kill. Or 2, you get big damage on them or a knock and have the means to close the gap before they can res or heal. In the first scenario, you need to be confident that you can get that member down before their squad shows up, and make sure not to tunnel on this too much. A lot of teams will try to collapse on an Octane or a Wraith only for them to get away with their speed and evasiveness. If this happens, you've given up your positional advantage and gain nothing in return. In the second scenario, you need to make sure that you deal enough damage and you're in range to capitalize on it. If you crack 2 enemies but don't have an Octane pad or some sort of gap closer to get to them, they're likely going to heal that damage before you ever get there. The best case scenario here is that you get a knock and then push, because this gives you a large time window to push them. If the enemy squad doesn't give you this chance though, you have to be diligent about your positioning and force them to play around the zone. If you have good positioning and stay proactive about moving first as the zone closes and put yourself in a power position, you can stay one step ahead of them and force them into a bad situation. A lot of teams will hold their ground until the very last second, causing them to make irrational plays out of a lack of time. If you make decisions faster and you're smart about where you're moving, you will force the enemy squad into coming in the open or risking dying to the zone. Alrighty guys, if you stay calm and make these smart maneuvers in these endgame situations, you will be coming out on top way more often. These top 5 situations are more of a dance than they are a war. You don't have to try to eliminate every squad, just let them fight it out, and be ready to capitalize on the openings the fights provide. Let me know in the comments below what your biggest takeaway from today's video is, and if you have a tip of your own for your fellow grinders, let them know down below. Anyway guys, as always, it's been valued, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.